Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to talk about a bunch of new Evolution EXs. There is going to be a busy old day of Pokemon news, and I, for one, am delighted. So let's finish off with the Gen 1 Evolutions. Let's start off with our old friend Jolteon. Of course, we've already seen Eevee, and we've already seen Vaporeon. Makes sense we'd have a look at Jolteon. And here we got 260 HP, free retreat, which is actually a huge bonus. Weakness to fighting is not ideal because a lot of stuff's weak to fighting. And we've actually got the same second attack that we saw on Vaporeon. And spoiler alert, it's going to be the same one we see on Vaporeon in a moment. Other evolutions do not have this attack. It is just these three because these are the Gen 1 evolutions. And it's 1 fire, 1 water, 1 lightning, i.e. 1 energy for each of them. And you deal 280 and you can't attack next turn. And honestly, this is alright. It's not perfect by any stretch. 280 won't get everything, but it'll basically get everything other than Stage 2 EXs. Although even then, you'll still be getting stuff like Pidgeot, for instance. Okay, fine, Pidgeot's weak, so you don't even need to do 280 for Pidgeot. But still, you'll basically get everything other than Stage 2 EXs. And that's not too bad. Stage 2 EXs, you will have to try a little bit harder. But you basically got this on all three Pokemon with the same energy cost on all three Pokemon. And the fact that if you're hitting for weakness, then you will then get literally anything. She'll be up to 560 at that point. And I promise you, 560 will be enough. It's an alright attack. It's fine. I don't think it's game-breaking or stunning or amazing or anything like that. But I think it's fine. We've then got 1 lightning, 1 colorless, 60 damage. And you may discard up to 2 basic energy from your bench Pokemon. And it is basic energy. It does not have to be lightning. This attack does 90 more damage for each card discarded in this way. So up to 240. If you're doing this properly, you'll get up to 240. And I'm kind of alright with this. This seems kind of fun. And the thing is, and we've talked about this before, we've got a couple of cards that give us a massive advantage with these new Eevees. Starting with the Eevee that came around in Surging Sparks. The Eevee from Surging Sparks is a godsend for these new evolutions, because the ability says that as long as it's active, you can evolve it during your first turn, or the turn that you play it. But then we've also got Glass Trumpet, which lets you accelerate 2 basic energy onto, 1 basic energy onto each of 2 of your colorless Pokemon. And this makes a huge difference, because Eevee is a colourless Pokemon. So Glass Trumpet, just use it on Eevee before you evolve, and then you're golden. It does, remember, have to be benched colourless Pokemon. Now, I've seen some people suggesting using this with Blissey. So you Glass Trumpet onto Blissey and then move it over. And yeah, that will absolutely work. But that's an engine we've seen people trying that isn't going beautifully right now. You don't need that, because Eevee is a colourless Pokemon. So here, now for the second attack, we're having to discard the energy. Yeah, you might need Blissey if you're trying to loop that. But here, don't even worry about it. What I'm thinking is, turn 1, you just Glass Trumpet onto a benched Eevee and something else. You attach for your turn, get it into the active, evolve into Jolteon. That's a pretty easy 150 turn 1 going second. If you want to, if that's what you're looking for, that is absolutely possible. 1 Glass Trumpet, attach for turn, then get in the active and evolve. I like this. I'm giving this one an extremely tentative 4 Wassies. I think it's got good potential turn 1 going second. I think you can get up to decent damage, and the free retreat is kind of nice. But what about Vaporeon, the other one, the final one of the Gen 1 Eevees? Well, we got 280 HP. No free retreat on this one, I'm afraid. And that same second attack we don't need to talk about because we already have. But then we've got 1 water, 1 colourless, and it does 60 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon EX. Very important to not applying weakness and resistance. And it's very important to note it is only Pokemon EX. We have reached that point now where these attacks that go after the big 2 prize Pokemon specifically target down EXs, not EXs and Pokemon V. And that makes a big difference here, because there's plenty of Pokemon V and V-Star that are still out there seeing a whole bunch of play. And certainly here I'm thinking about things like Lumineon, and I'm thinking about things like Rotom that are weak Pokemon V, that are seeing a bunch of play, that you want to be trying to either KO with a couple uses of this, or use to bring them down to a hilariously low HP. You know, this plus a Dusknoir, for instance, would KO Lumineon and would KO Rotom. Now, it doesn't, because like I've said, this attack won't get Pokemon V, only Pokemon EX. But if it did target Pokemon V, one use of this would put those Pokemon into Dusknoir range, which I think would be a very good thing. You'll still get Squawkabilly. Squawkabilly will still be put into Dusknoir range by using this attack one time, and that's lovely. But I would love it if we could do more, frankly. And you're not getting that here, and that genuinely does upset me a little bit. I want to be able to go after the Pokemon V here, and I can't. Boo, hiss, etc. The other thing I'm thinking of here, and this might be a stretch and I don't care, Palossand. Remember, Palossand brings all your opponent's bench Pokemon down to 100 HP remaining. As long as you've got a couple of EXs in there, then a couple uses of Vaporeon here will finish out the game. And let's face it, Vaporeon needs water colorless, Palossand needs water psychic fighting. The energy totally matches here, just putting that out there. But honestly, again, this is turn one going second. Using the Eevee from Surging Sparks and Glass Trumpet, this is not a hard attack to get rolling. Just use Glass Trumpet before you evolve Eevee. And then all of a sudden, you've got this rolling really easily. And if your opponent's playing basic EXs especially, being able to do this consistently every single turn from your first turn going second, yeah, I really like the idea of some of these with Eevee and Glass Trumpet. Without them, I like these Pokemon a lot less. But we have them, and I think that makes a huge difference. Another extremely tentative for Wassies. But let's head forward to Gen 4 now and look at the other water evolution. Let's take a look at Glaceon. 270 HP here, weakness to metal, and we've got water colorless, 110 plus 30 to one of your opponent's bench. And what I'm saying here is going to get quite repetitive, and I apologize. This is great if you can pull this off going second using Eevee and Glass Trumpet. Because then 110 to the active, 30 to the bench, that is a lot of damage to get on the board, especially in a situation where your opponent hasn't had chance to evolve. So you should be taking a KO, hopefully, with this, while also damaging a bench Pokemon. And, of course, you can totally combine this with, for instance, Vaporeon. So you do a few attacks of Glaceon, maybe do a bit of gusting to set everything down to the right number of damage, and then get Glaceon to come and attack a couple times to finish them off. Will it be too slow? Don't know. But I'm telling you right now, this one is an awful lot of fun. But also because of the second attack, Euclase, Grass, Water, Darkness, KO one of your opponent's Pokemon that has exactly 6 damage counters on it. If they've got 6 damage counters, you get an automatic, no question, KO. I was going to say one-hit KO there, but yeah. But honestly, these damage counters here, they're not a problem. They are really not a problem. Because, first of all, you can just attack twice with this, yeah, you're good. But then we've got so many ways to manipulate damage for our opponent here. Now, I've already seen some people suggesting Dragapult, and my answer to that would be, what is your energy line? If you're playing Dragapult and Glaceon, because Phantom Dive needs Fire and Psychic, and then Glaceon needs Water, Grass, and Darkness. Like, what energy line are you playing here if you're playing this with Dragapult? Nice idea, but no, that's never going to work. But Dusclops will drop 5 damage counters here, which means they're only 1 away. And then, of course, you can always go for Hawlucha, which we'll go and get the 6 damage counter on. Seems a bit round the houses, but that will absolutely work. But also, just play around with bench damage and then get your Radiant Alakazam as your Radiant Pokemon of choice here. Radiant Alakazam will allow you to move damage counters, and that means you're going to have a much easier time manipulating 2/6 damage counters here. Radiant Alakazam, of course, has that rather lovely ability, whereby once during your turn, you can move up to 2 damage counters from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another. Or you can play around with Monkey Dory, for instance, which will allow you to move up to 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to your opponent's, although you do have to have Darkness Energy on there. But then again, Glaceon uses Darkness Energy. So here we're actually working quite nicely. And I'm just saying that there's a lot of different ways we've got to manipulate damage here to try and make sure that our opponent is in a little bit of trouble. I love this. There's a whole bunch of ways you can go about this. You know, you could go Meowscarada here. And to be fair, you do need Grass Energy for Glaceon. I don't think that's the best way to do it. Really need to stress that. But you can go Meowscarada here if you like, because using that ability twice will put 6 damage counters on one of your opponent's bench. I'm just saying we got a lot of options here. I think this can work. I'm giving it a tentative 4 Wassies, and I don't even care. But speaking of grass, there's one more I want to talk about in this video, and that is our old friend Leafeon. Again, 270 HP, weakness to fire, no free retreat here, boo hiss, etc. But a decent pair of attacks. Grass, colorless, 60 damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. Yeah, this can add up nicely. Now, this actually goes away from what I've been saying about these evolutions so far. This is not a turn 1 going second, overextend to try and get this and get some cheeky KOs. This is a give your opponent a couple of turns to get up and rolling and then punish with Leafeon. And you know what? I love Leafeon with the others we've got here. Because if you're playing like Glaceon, you're already playing Grass Energy. So this makes this a really easy tech. I love Leafeon as a bit of a tech against energy-hungry decks. And sometimes it's going to stay in your deck, but that's fine. Because you're playing Eevee to evolve into other Pokemon anyway. It doesn't really matter. But then if you ever get to a situation where your opponent does attach too much energy, you can get this rolling incredibly quickly and then just drop this and punish, and I love it for that. As for the second attack, Grass, Fire, Water, and we're doing 230 damage and healing 100 from all of your bench Pokemon. I don't like this so much. And look, let's say you end up against a Palossand deck. You found someone like me who's actually trying to make it work. Yeah, obviously healing 100 from everything's great. But that's about it. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a little bit of a problem. It's not that I don't think healing 100 is good. It's just that I watch a lot of Pokemon. I play a lot of Pokemon, and I don't know what matchups you're going to sit there being like, ha ha ha, what a wonderful position. Now I'm in a great chance to take down. But like, this never happens. You don't generally sit there with a bunch of damage just sitting all over your bench, waiting to heal it. I'm giving this one between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. My biggest issue here is that I just don't necessarily think it's always going to work. The second attack and the first attack, I do think there's absolutely times it's going to be great. And there will be times where you can make it work. But I think there's other times where it's just going to sit in your deck and it's not going to do much for the game. So there we go, 4 new Evolution EXs to start you off today, and I'll be back in a little bit with more news, but for now, tell me what you think about these dudes in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel like the lovely Kanto Royalty, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.